Hey, yo, Foxboro, what's going on? Welcome to another episode today with me, Sarah Marshall. It's just me, little me today, no guests. I just kind of felt like doing this alone today. Let me see if I can fix my camera a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I think, it's week 1. There's quite a bit to actually talk about, but I don't know that there's a whole lot of good. So I'm kind of just winging it today all by myself. But expect a guest on Friday when we are back to do the Steelers pre-show. So make sure you guys check that out. So I just want to get straight into the game because although it wasn't all great, there is still a lot to talk about. I always have a lot to talk about when it comes to the Patriots, whether it's good or bad. So, but I wanted to start this off with the good because so much of what you're seeing online, especially or in the media in regards to the game yesterday, it's all negative. It's super negative. And I understand that feeling, of course, because the game did not go well. There were so many instances of it having the possibility of being better and just didn't go that way. So let's just start with the good. I want to talk about the players that I feel like did the best. So when I've done this in the past, when I've gone over games, I've gone over. I've kind of toyed with how I do it. So sometimes I'll just like talk about players. Other times I'll do it drive by drive. And I want you guys to let me know what you prefer. So I'm gonna just do this with going hand in hand kind of with the article that I put out today at Musket Fire. Um, I kind of want to just go in that route, but if you guys like to do it by drive and talk about the specifics of every drive, which was good and bad, let me know because I am down to do that too. So, the best of the day, I want to give a shout out, of course, to the defense. The defense stepped up. They were the best part of the team throughout preseason. And I don't think that that was like a huge surprise coming into this game because they looked good all summer long and it was bound to translate into the regular season. We knew that the Dolphins play fast, so the addition of Tyreek Hill especially was a concern because he is called the cheetah for a reason. And they were obviously going to be giving him the football a lot because he's an automatic wide receiver 1 no matter what team he's on. There's no reason he should be taking a back seat to anybody. I was kind of surprised that Waddle wasn't integrated more, but I guess when you have Tyreek Hill on the field, might as well just use him as much as you can. But the guys that stood out to me specifically on defense, I'm gonna get into the pass rush in a second, but the defense, I want to talk about Kyle Duggar, my guy Kyle Duggar. You guys, maybe you don't, but I love Kyle Duggar. I've been a big fan of his since the Patriots drafted him. I think I was one of the very few people who actually was thinking positively of him. So many people wanted to talk about the fact that he came out of a smaller school, and I think he was 24 when they drafted him, and that was some sort of big deal, but whatever. So him being as amazing as he was yesterday was not at all surprising. But I think he did really well, and you can tell if that's how he's going to play for the rest of the season, and I think it's going to be really good. So yesterday he was all over the field once again. I feel like that's just his thing. Like on almost any play, you can kind of just try and figure out where where he was because he's everywhere. He's never just stationary. He was covering Tyreek Hill, of course, matching up with him all game long, which was interesting because in past matchups between the Patriots and the Dolphins, a lot of that has been put on Jonathan Jones, who he was matching up with him as well, but it's been a lot of the time Jonathan Jones and that's it, and not even getting safety help. So the fact that they were giving him to Duggar too, I think is an indication of how they feel about Duggar too, and it's not just us sitting at home watching and being excited about him. It's clearly translating to the coaches as well. I think he did a really good job when he was. I mean, he's an impactful player. He's always making plays, so it's not shocking that this happened, but I believe from what I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe when he was matching up with Duggar, the biggest gain that he allowed Hill was 6 yards, which is insanity because that man can catch any football. He can run away from everybody. So 6 yards is amazing. And there was that one moment that I got really scared. I'm sure if you guys follow me on Twitter, you probably saw my tweet. I think it was just no in a bunch of capital letters because I was terrified. Duggar, it was said that he got injured. It looks like he got kicked possibly below the belt when he was getting Hill and push him out of bounds. There was some sort of, leg something going on. So thank goodness he was able to come back into the game. He ended the day with 6 tackles and 2 tackles for a loss. So good performance from him, which also comes to Jonathan Jones. I want to call that out too. His return was super anticipated, at least for me. I think when he went out last year down with that injury, it was a big loss. I think Jalen Mills stepped up a lot, and I'm expecting to see a lot more from Mills as the season goes on. But now that Jones is back, I think that helps so much, especially in a game like this where Jones is capable of staying with a guy that is as fast as Tyreek Hill. We know that Tyreek Hill is the fastest guy in the league, other than Thornton, who's only like point one or 0.2 seconds faster. But he's on the Patriots, so that's not a concern. But he was super aggressive yesterday. He matched up well with Hill. He did allow bigger plays, bigger completions, but he did limit him to 26 and 23-yard gains, which, considering it's Tyreek Hill, that could be a lot worse. He was successful on the day. Hill was kind of shut down again. I think that that's something that's funny where a lot of teams have difficulties shutting down Hill. And I feel like that's something that the Patriots are actually good at, which, considering how fast he is and how the rest of the league seems to not understand how to do that, the fact that Belichick basically has it under control almost every single time is a little bit crazy. So he did end the day 8 of 12 receptions for 94 yards. So under 100 yards. We know what this man is capable of. There was that one game. Oh, was it against I can't remember if it was last season where he had like 4 touchdowns or something crazy and like 200 and something yards. Like, we know what this man can do. So, the Patriots have been good about keeping him under 100 yards. I think in the last 3 matchups, I said this on Friday, that they limited him to about 50 something yards per game. So 94 is a lot more, but not awful. Could be a lot worse. So the pass rush. So we finally got to see that. That looked great in the preseason. It looks like it's going to continue into this season. Specifically, Jawan Bentley, Matthew Judon, and Dietrich Wise Jr. So I have to give those guys a shout out because, oh wait, let me see. Let me check the comments because I don't want to ignore you guys. Chris says the Patriots D was very good on how they handled Hill during the game. Kyle Duggar was the man. Yes, I'm so glad I am not the only one. You guys, keep an eye on Kyle Duggar because he's going to be a superstar, and I am so excited because it's finally happening. I'm so glad that the Patriots are the team that got him. I'd be so upset if he was a guy that someone else got lucky and snagged in the draft over the Patriots. And there's a lot of those types of players that we have to deal with, as dealing with N'Keal Harry. We always had to hear about AJ Brown and DK Metcalf. So I'm glad that we don't have Kyle Duggar on that list. Chris also says you could see just how big of a miss Jonathan Jones was last season. Yeah, and so I think the fact that he was so impactful in just his first game, it just shows you, the defense. The defense fell off at the latter half of the season last year, and I think part of it was Jonathan Jones being injured. And the other, and I know a lot of people blame Judon for falling off, and he did fall off, but I don't think people realize, and I think I've said this on here multiple times, Judon was a part of like 80 something percent of all defensive snaps for the entire year. That's absolutely crazy. So that man was exhausted by the end of the year. So I don't blame him. It sucks because he was basically the lead pass rusher guy that was getting to the quarterback and obviously set records for the Patriots on the season. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine how his body was feeling at the end of the year. So I give him all the kudos, all the credit, because that guy's a monster. So the pass rush, as I was saying, I want to talk about Bentley and Wise first. So those two were awarded their captain titles for the first time this year. And I don't know how people were reacting to it. I thought it was really cool, really exciting. I know people were expecting Judon to maybe get become captain as well, but I feel like this says a lot about Bentley and Wise because they feel like players that have kind of gone under the radar with Patriots fans, especially. I know Wise has kind of gone up and down, at least in the opinions of fans. And I think this was a good showing for him too. So both Bentley and Wise were just, I think I called them, I don't remember if it was, maybe it was Bentley or Wise. I don't remember which one, but I said they were in full menace mode yesterday. They were all over Tua the entire game. They were all over the run game. Bentley had 7 tackles, a sack, a tackle for a loss, and a quarterback hit, with Wise having 3 tackles, a sack, and a quarterback hit too. So they were in the face of Tua all game long. And that's what's kind of funny. So if you look, obviously the score looks bad. 20-7 is not good. But when you actually look at the way that the game went, it's kind of insane how poorly the Patriots played and how the Dolphins didn't seem to like benefit from that more. I feel like based on how the Patriots were playing, they could have blown out the Dolphins pretty easily had they just played any better. And the Dolphins should have taken advantage of those mistakes more because the breakdown is just kind of embarrassing. There were so many punts and just missed opportunities, but I'm glad that it was only a 20-7 loss because if it were worse, then I think we would be having a completely different conversation right now. But Judon, I want to talk about him as well. He got a sack for a -9 yards. He was spending a lot of his time into his face as well in the backfield, stopping the run, getting to the receivers. And he looked very much like what we saw from the beginning of the 2021 season, which was phenomenal from him. So it's looking like he's back into that era, if we want to call it. And I'm excited because if we can get that type of production from him again, even if it's not exactly the same, now having the production coming from other guys with him, like Bentley and Wise, and there's other guys like Uche and Barmore and Jennings. If we can get more guys participating in these things that Judon was basically taking the lead of last year, I think this defense could be really scary and definitely the better side of the football. I don't know if that's going to continue for the rest of the season, but the fact that they're starting off this way is really exciting as a fan. And I think it's exciting to, I mean, the Patriots has had a better defense much of the last 20 years, but with Brady being gone, so many people were not, I don't know how do I explain this? The offense was kind of not a worry. Like even if the defense was better than the offense, you kind of didn't worry about the offense because it was like, okay, well, it's Tom Brady, like he's going to figure it out. But now that we have a young guy in Mac Jones, obviously there's going to be some more question marks there. So the fact that the defense might be the better side, I think is going to help keep them in games and take a lot of that pressure off of Mac. So if they can come out this way, how they played yesterday for the rest of the season, especially in Miami against a historically difficult opponent for them, then I think they're going to be great. Kind of, again, flying under the radar with other people, especially, those of us that play fantasy football. You might want to be looking into the Patriots defense if they're not taken. I'm sure they probably are, but I made the mistake of not snatching them. So overall, the defense was super aggressive. They only allowed technically 13 offensive points by the Dolphins. Tried to keep the offense within the game. The offense just made a bunch of mistakes and they just couldn't get it done. So I do want to talk about the offense, although they were kind of a hot mess for the entire game. Mr. Reliable Jacoby Myers did not disappoint. I had said on here in our stream from this early yesterday morning when we talked about this game, I was kind of unsure if Myers was going to play actually because he had been limited in practice and then before the game, he was seen in a knee brace. And so I was like, okay, maybe we're not going to see a whole lot from him. I was thinking maybe we would see more of Humphrey, more of Parker. Parker seemed like more of the obvious choice just because, it's his old team. But that's not what happened. I'm glad it's not what happened because as we get into the other things that were not so good, Mac Jones needed Myers really badly. So he was 4 of 6 receptions for 55 yards. Clearly the wide receiver one on the day and for the season. I think there was some talk of him maybe not being the number one guy, but that has clearly not changed at all. So I'm fine with it. I think he's another guy that is underappreciated a little bit because I think he's not the big name type of player. He's not a Tyreek Hill, for instance, but like we know as Patriots fans that it doesn't really matter. The name on the back of the jersey doesn't really matter as long as they perform well and they do their job, then that's what's most important. So he's the epitome of that. He's definitely the most reliable, hence the nickname that everyone was calling him yesterday. He's consistent, which is another thing that stands out. He made some really great catches yesterday, contested catches, and I think that's another part of his game that's kind of not recognized as much. And I think if again, a lot of this is going to be projection because we only have one game to go off of. So if he is able to keep this going, he's definitely going to continue on that path of the wide receiver one, and maybe earn some more playing time because they were trying to integrate Parker more yesterday, but some of that stuff it would have ended differently if it was to Myers. I mean, that's no shade to Parker, but we'll see. He could also have a bigger year if Bourne keeps hanging out on the bench. We'll get into that in a little bit when we talk about some of the bad things of the game, but with that whole situation feeling very murky at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Myers more because of that. My Bourne was the number 2 guy last year. He only got not I don't it was a handful of yards less on the season than Myers. So, those numbers could definitely flip if Bourne's situation doesn't get resolved at some point. The run game, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and Ty Montgomery, they actually looked pretty good yesterday. Nothing phenomenal, nothing over the top amazing, but given the fact that the offensive line looked like absolute trash for the entirety of the preseason, the fact that they were able to, at least for some of the game, open those holes for the run game to get through was certainly helpful, especially on their first drive, which was basically all on the ground until the last play. So Damian Harris got by far the most offensive snaps in. He totaled 22 yesterday. Stevenson was in there for 14. The offensive line wasn't consistent for the entirety of the game, but they were able to get some bigger runs in. I think Harris's biggest run was for 12 yards. So again, nothing amazing, but it does give you a little bit of hope going forward that if the offensive line can figure their stuff out, that the run game is not going to suffer as drastically as they did in the preseason. And with the struggles on offense that they're facing with not just, Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne, but, Parker had a rough day yesterday. Aguilar had a rough day. They're going to want to probably rely on the run game a lot more. So hopefully, and I say this with my fingers crossed, the offensive line at least will get better in that way because they're going to need the run game. I was very excited about Montgomery as well. I think I'm one of his I don't know how many fans he has, but I think I'm one of his bigger fans for the Patriots. So I am excited to see that he was involved in the passing game more, not so much in the run game yesterday, but I feel like it was kind of obvious yesterday that he was getting more of the James White type of plays. He would score the only touchdown of the game when he stopped, dropped, and rolled on the field into the end zone. And that was really cool for multiple reasons, but as a fan of just football players in general, it was really cool because it was his first touchdown in general since October of 2018 and his first receiving touchdown since September of 2017. So, he got a touchdown, I think, in the preseason, and they were celebrating it like it was this really, really big deal. And they had mentioned that it had been a long time that he had gotten a touchdown. So I think that's pretty cool just from a player, a fan perspective of, I think that's pretty cool. Um, I think it is interesting though that he seems to be taking that James White stance pretty early. I think that Stevenson was the front runner in that, especially where they were discussing so much of his um work in the passing game this preseason. So I feel like, or I felt like, and I think a lot of people felt like he was going to be that guy. And at least in this game, it was Ty Montgomery. Let's see what you guys are saying in the comments because I don't want to miss it. Freddie, we will get to the Kendrick Bourne stuff. Don't worry. So I'm not going to click on your comment just yet, but we will when I get down there. Chris said Ty Montgomery played well, a jack of all trades with a nice roll for the touchdown. Yeah, I loved how people were saying it was like a fire, like the stop, drop, and roll. That made me laugh. And that was exciting. I mean, at least that was kind of like an offensive boost. And I was kind of hoping that was gonna kind of put them further and kind of swing the momentum in their favor. And unfortunately, it would be the only points that they scored. So we'll see. But I am excited to see what Montgomery can do because I did before the season started called him a secret weapon for the Patriots. So I'm anticipating that to keep going. So let's get into the worst of the day. There was quite a bit of it. So this list is a lot longer than the good, but this is a game they can learn from, that they can build on. I think some of the issues that people thought were going to be a problem weren't. I might be an outlier in my opinion, but I really don't feel that the play calling was that much of an issue. There were some questionable calls, but I do think that can happen in any game to any team at any time. If we really want to compare it to what Josh McDaniels is doing, he lost pretty big in Vegas yesterday. So, I mean, I feel considering what the team looked like, they performed overall pretty lackluster, but I don't feel that the play calling was an issue. I don't know that Matt Patricia is at fault in that area. I do worry that he might have too much on his plate as the offensive play caller while also trying to coach the offensive line. The offense is a mess right now, but the offensive line is a hot mess. So I just wonder if he's being stretched too thin, that there's just too much for him to handle. And they probably need to figure that out sooner or later because I mean, it looked a little bit better from what we saw, at least against the Raiders in their last preseason game. But a lot of the issues that we saw all throughout the month of August were there again yesterday. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I'm seeing a lot of people blame play calling from what I've seen. I just don't agree. So one of the bad things of yesterday, I would say Mac Jones. And I'm not going to say that Mac Jones was bad, that he performed necessarily bad. I'm going to say it was his decision making was a little bit questionable and his awareness was off. His awareness was a little surprising because that's not usually something that has been an issue for him in the past, at least from what we've seen last year and even in college. That was never something that stood out. But sorry guys, I just accidentally closed my little comment section there. So that was a little bit alarming yesterday. He did finish the day 21 of 30 for one touchdown, interception, and a fumble. The first drive started off fine. It was, like I said earlier, mostly on the ground, and they were successful run plays. I would say that the decision to throw to Parker in the end zone. Okay, my cat is making an appearance. I'm sorry, guys. His decision to throw to Devontae Parker in the end zone, I would say, was questionable at best. Parker was basically blanketed by Holland the entire way down into the end zone. I don't remember who was on the other running down on the opposite side, but they were covered too. So basically, it didn't look like he had many options, but it was a 1st and 10 play, and I believe Smith was like not far, not that, like 5-7 yards in front of him, and didn't really have a defender on him. So he could have gone with, um, the short gain there, and he chose to throw to Parker, which, given the circumstances, they were trying to catch up. They wanted to swing the momentum to their side. So I get that, but he was covered the entire way. Should have been called defensive pass interference, and the referees just pretended like they didn't see it. And it just was not a good decision on Mac's part, especially getting that aggressive on a 1st and 10 play when you were, I don't even know where they were. Let me double check where they were on the field. Like, they weren't even that far out of the end zone. 1st and 10 at Miami's 22. Yeah. So he didn't need to be that aggressive on the first down. So his arm strength has been a topic of conversation a lot since he was drafted. I don't think that was an issue. He had quite a few deep passes that looked good yesterday. I don't think that his arm looked questionable. Like I said, I think it was more so of the decision making of when he was using those plays. His awareness was an issue. The strip sack was not completely on him because the offensive line was struggling yesterday, and they kept doubling guys and then leaving guys wide open. And then on the strip sack, that was exactly what happened. Brandon Jones went completely uncovered, just ran right through and got to Jones. So it's possible that Matt could have seen that if he had a little, his normal pre-snap awareness that we've gotten accustomed to seeing. But at the same time, we have to couple that with what the offensive line was doing or what they weren't doing. And that appears to be what led to Mac's injury, his back injury. They did talk about that a little bit because Mac was not available to the media yesterday after the game, but he did talk to the media today. So did Matthew Slater, and I don't remember who else has spoken to them. That was the last I saw. Matthew Slater did call Mac one of the toughest players in the league, and that he continues to display mental and physical toughness. He said he's going to stand in there and he's going to compete no matter the circumstances, no matter his physical condition. He has displayed over the course of his young career not only physical toughness, but mental toughness. And Mac would talk to the media as well, which he said that he was feeling much better than he did yesterday. They reported that he was having some back spasms and that they were going to monitor that the rest of the week. I guess they don't return to practice until Wednesday, so he has a couple days off to kind of just chill out and rest, because then they have another away game in Pittsburgh. But he did say that he plans on playing against the Steelers, and he said after the injury, he said, I kept playing and try to work through it. It's football. You're going to get hit. I've been hit harder before, and will probably get hit harder in the future. It's part of the game. It's all good. So a good indication of him playing on Sunday, because basically they only have Brian Hoyer and Bailey Zappi, which if you had to pick one or the other, obviously we would go with Hoyer, but it's not an ideal situation. So hopefully his back is okay. Obviously you don't want to mess with a back injury too much, but a good sign coming from him that he's feeling a lot better and plans to practice this week. So that is just an update there. Then we're going to move on to the offensive line, as if I could ever leave that out this year so far, of them not doing well. They started the game pretty well, which I think kind of set the tone, making people assume that the game is going to go much better than it did. But that was basically it for the game. They had open holes for the run game, so there was some solid blocking for receivers as well. But their consistency is what continued to fall short for the rest of the game. There was too many mistakes made. Like I said, they left defenders open. They left them unblocked. That's what led to 2 sacks for negative 20 yards and 3 quarterback hits. One of those was the strip sack. s- I- some of that, like I said, can be blamed on Mac's awareness, but given the state of the offensive line, I feel like they'd have to take more of the blame in that situation. I do remember that Trent Brown had kind of a rough day. He is now I'm hoping that we're going to see more out of him because he is just a monster of a guy. So there's no reason why he should be struggling as much as he is, but there was a lot of double blocking or blocking the wrong guy. So we'll have to monitor that. And they just need to be consistent throughout the game. You can't start off great and then fall off at the end, because then if you have something, you know, that happens, like an interception, or you're handed an opportunity, you can't fall flat on your face because you just can't do your job properly. Um, Freddie says Mac is lacking confidence. That 4-1 play was terrible. Yeah, I that was kind of, I know that they had to go for it, but I think, yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that is a reflection of Patricia. He Mac Jones did talk highly of him and said that he felt like they had enough um conversation between plays and drives yesterday. So I know that he's probably going to go to bat and defend his coach. He's not going to come out and say anything negative about Patricia, but it is still going to be a big topic to talk about, because if they continue to look like this and they continue to struggle in games that were very easily winnable, then there is definitely an issue that they need to take care of. Chris said my biggest concern from the game, it was the O line. A big job for Matty P to fix. Yeah, and that's why I wonder if part of the issue is that he just has too much on his plate. It's the first season that he is calling offensive plays, and then you're also having him try to coach an offensive line. So I don't know if that's just. It just seems like it might be too much. I don't know. It's only the first game, so we have one game to go off of. Um, but they have another game coming up that looks winnable, especially with so many of the big guys on the Steelers defense being out, like TJ Watt. Um, they have some question marks at quarterback. So, it's a game that they should win. And if they don't, because of struggles with the offensive line again, it's like, then what are we doing? Like, you need to figure this out, because the season's only going to get tougher. They have a pretty difficult schedule. So figure this stuff out early, so then when you do have to play these tough opponents, you're not sitting there still trying to figure this stuff out. That would just be a complete disaster. Um, the another bad part of the day was missed opportunities and mistakes. They definitely defined this game, and it's got to be eating Belichick alive, because we know from watching Patriots football, especially coached by Belichick, that some of the biggest things that he constantly talks about is protect the football, limit mistakes, take advantage of those opportunities that are given to you, and they faltered. It just they couldn't follow through with that. So Jack Jones, he got some time yesterday, which was pretty cool to see because he is a rookie. He did have a possible interception that would have been phenomenal, would have been so amazing to see, um, over Tyreek Hill. He basically had the football in his hands and he allowed Hill to snatch it from him. So there are two things that I think could have gone differently. So obviously it's a learning experience. Jones is a rookie. That was the first time he's ever played in a national football game. So this is something he'll figure out with time, but he was so close to getting the interception, but he could have either tried to make sure that Tyreek Hill didn't come down with it, which of course, and try to take Hill down, like not focus, maybe give up at some point of trying to get the football. Everything happened so fast. If you look at the replay, I don't know how much time Jack had to try and like figure out the situation to have it end differently. It's Tyreek Hill, first of all, that you are matching up with. But it was just a big missed opportunity. It would have been a very easy interception. Same thing happened later in the game with Miles Bryant. He dropped an interception off of a bad read and overthrow by Tua. It was, I think it was in the fourth quarter with a little under 9 minutes left. So the game was within grasp. They were only down 2 scores at that point, and that could have been a big momentum changer for the Patriots if he had come up with it, and it just didn't work out that way. So those were some big opportunities that they missed out on. Avoidable penalties gave opportunities to Miami. So even if they only scored um 20 points, and the Patriots only got 3 flags apparently for 15 yards. When I saw that, I thought that was insane because it felt like they got way more than that. Then the problem with that is the yardage, the penalties were not high, but when they got the penalties is what made it feel like they were so much more because they were horribly timed penalties. So the first one came with Carl Davis getting a neutral zone infraction on the Dolphins' first drive. It was 4th and 1 from the 50 and gave them a whole new set of downs. It's possible, given how the rest of the game went, that the Dolphins may have gone for it because they continued to go for it on 4th down. But given the fact that they were at the 50-yard line, it's possible that they would have just decided against it. But that was just so bad. They were able to hold them to have to go on 4th down. So if Carl Davis could have just not fallen for the bait that they already knew was going to happen because they took a timeout once they saw that it looked like they were going to go for it. It's one of the most frustrating penalties that anybody can get or a defense can get because that's what's coming. So it's like, just don't move. Just don't move. But I mean, I can't say that I would have been better at it. I'm not a football player. So Mac was sacked in the 4th quarter. It was an easy roughing the passer call, would have given them an extra 15 yards. But David Andrews and Ty Montgomery both earned chop block penalties, which then offset the roughing the passer. So again, just a big avoidable thing that would have helped them do something and ended up with another penalty there. Well, it offsets. And then in the 4th, they got a too many men on the field, which I can't imagine how pissed off Belichick was at that because it's one of the laziest things that they can get penalized for. And it happened anyway. I think I missed that part. I probably stopped watching. Joe says if Bryant didn't try to extend to catch that interception, D-Mac had an interception. Yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation because there were 2 guys that were right there and very easily could have come up with the football. So a big missed opportunity there. It's just it goes again with the what ifs. The what if that interception had come down with the Patriot? What if Jack Jones had gotten that interception over Tyreek Hill? Like, but we can't live in the what ifs because we will just be miserable and never live it down. Ball security was seriously lacking. This was been an issue in the Patriots versus Dolphins games for 3 games now. And there are 2 matchups last year that basically is what defined the Patriots' loss. Fumbles by Harris and Stevenson in the first game, interceptions, fumbles by Mac also in the games. That is the reason why they lost both games last year. And that's a huge reason why, or one of the only reasons why they lost this game yesterday. That fumble strip sack to a touchdown was a complete disaster. The interception that was never should have been an interception led to 3 points. So that was 10 points right away given to them. So a 10-7 game sounds a lot better than a 20-7 game. Definitely a lot easier for them to come back from, and it just didn't happen. You can't win football games when you're turning the ball over and allowing them to score points. So that is something that they're going to have to make a point of emphasis once again. It's the same thing that happened last year. It's why Ramondre Stevenson was in the doghouse for I think 2 or 3 games after game 1. So they need to figure that out because, like I said, they're going to have tougher opponents coming up. And if you're just giving them opportunity after opportunity to score and basically make you have to constantly catch up. And then you have little to no hope in winning that football game. So I want to get to Kendrick Bourne now. I consider that part of the bad. Not even Kendrick Bourne, just the entire situation. I saw, let's say, Freddie said something. The fact they put Kendrick Bourne in the game for one play and he caught a 41-yard pass and we never saw him again is a crime. I 100% agree. It was the most ridiculous thing. And I'm still really frustrated about it. And I feel like we haven't even gotten more clarity. So I think a lot of people assumed that we were kind of not seeing Bourne after the fight that broke out. I think it was on day 1 of the Patriots Panthers joint practices. Bourne was ejected from practice, and we were like, okay, he's just in the doghouse, like whatever, thinking that was just going to be it. But since then, things have gotten kind of weird. I mean, before that too, he wasn't like super involved in the offense. Like Mac was throwing to other people, and you just weren't really seeing a lot of involvement from Bourne. So that was just kind of weird. And it just got weirder again coming into this game. So he was not brought into the game until the fourth quarter, where he had, like Freddie said, an immediate 41-yard catch. Then he was only in the game for one more offensive snap, and that was it. After the game, Belichick was asked about it. Just led to more confusion because he gave no answers at all. Bourne also didn't really have much. He kind of put the responsibility on his shoulders more so than just claiming that he had no idea why or what was going on. But he kind of then later in just a few minutes later alluded to that he's not sure what's going on. So the fact that he's confused just as much as we are just makes the entire situation, I feel like, even worse because there's no clarity there. He was the number 2 guy last year. So there's, seeing the offense struggle as much as it did yesterday, and they still were like, yeah, we're not putting Bourne in. And then as you guys saw, he made the 41-yard reception. And then they were like, yeah, okay, so you can go in for one more snap and then we're taking you out. Like, are we serious? Like, I'm very confused. I don't know if we're going to get any more clarity on that, but definitely a situation to monitor because you don't bench your number 2 guy that made such an impact in his first year with the team, which is not easy for any player that comes into the Patriots to do. And not really, I mean, and not have any sort of reasoning behind it. I'm hoping that it's not another Malcolm Butler being benched in Super Bowl 52 situation where we're never going to figure out why, or there's like not a real reason or a legitimate reason as to why it's happening, because I think that would just be super unfortunate. So during their press conferences today, Slater and Mac Jones both talked about Kendrick Bourne. I don't know what their questions were. I just know their answers. Slater said Bourne is a selfless player and he loves this team. I think that's obvious. He is one of the most smiley players I think that we've ever seen in the NFL. And I mean, even with all of the stuff that is going on with that, we don't even know what it is, but you still see him smiling. You still see him posting on social media. You still see him excited and happy. So Mac Jones would also talk about him. He said, KB has to control what he can control. And when he gets the chance to play or practice, he just has to continue to be himself. He's done a good job and he's a great teammate. And he added that KB's time will come, but he has to keep doing what he's doing. So I'm assuming with his answer, he's kind of trying to be vague. Giving more of a Patriot-like Belichickian type of answer, but it almost seems like he kind of knows that there's something else going on, but he's not going to talk about it because, I mean, it's not really any of our business, and no one else is talking about it. Belichick's not giving any indication of what's going on, so I can't imagine that Mac is sitting there saying, like, he wants to be the guy. So, yeah, I mean, it's good to hear that from his teammates, but it just kind of makes the entire situation a little bit more frustrating, I would say, because it doesn't make any sense at all. And the last bad, I would say, on the day was just the overall execution. It needs to get better. Oh, wait. Get to the comments, guys. I'm sorry. Chris says, if Bourne is not involved in week 2, there was a real serious problem behind the scenes. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that it wouldn't be that serious if that were the situation. Given that he had that humongous play yesterday of 41 yards, did something that the rest of the offense was unable to do for the entirety of the game. He comes in for one play in the fourth quarter, and he does that. Like, I would be so disappointed because I was really excited when he was brought to the team last year. He had such a good first season with them. And if this is how it's going, it just so disappointed and it has me so bummed out. I really hope that it gets figured out because he could be such a massive part of the offense's success. And I really hope that they figure it out, settle it, just like do whatever they got to do to get him back on the field. I'm sure Mac feels the same way, um, as his number 2 guy. So execution, like I said earlier, people really want to blame play calling. I still don't think that was really the issue. I think it was more so about executing the plays that they were given to them and consistency. It was just a mess all around. We just weren't seeing that at all. And it was an issue that was all throughout the preseason. And you thought that maybe it would be ironed out before the start of the regular season, and it just didn't happen. So that's not something that's going to happen overnight. And obviously, it's maybe not going to look a million times better by the next Sunday, but some of these issues are things that they can do. Even like a little improvement can make such a huge difference in a game. So if they can just figure some of that out, they can have a real shot at beating the Steelers. I think they're favorites right now by, I think, like 1.5 points. And some people were shocked about that because of how the Steelers played yesterday. But I can see that happening, especially with the injury to TJ Watt. And I think there was another defensive player for the Steelers that's out. But TJ Watt being out is a huge plus for the Patriots. And then they have Mitchell Trubisky, who helped get the Steelers a win yesterday in overtime. But it's one of those things too where it makes you wonder, was it more of a good performance by the Steelers, or was it like a complete disaster of a game from the Bengals? Because the Bengals were miserable yesterday. They were so bad. Joe Burrow threw 4 interceptions, I think, and had a fumble. So um their defense seems a little bit scary, but I know that the Bengals offensive line was a humongous problem last year, and it seemed like they got it better in the draft and free agency this year. But I mean, he he was getting hit a lot and throwing picks left and right. So um I would like to think that the defense is going to be a big reason why they can win next week. Um and hopefully they can just get this stuff figured out. Chris said, overall, I think that was a 5 out of 10 game that was decided by 3 plays that cost points. Things for the Patriots to work on going into game 2. That's what I was saying. I saw Tom Curran was saying that this was just like a disaster, that it was embarrassing. I want to see exactly the words he used because it actually annoyed me. Shocking, right? That Boston sports people would be so negative. But he said it's not just a play here or there. It's kind of a cataclysmic breakdown. Okay. I got to use those big words. Anyway, so I still think that it basically came down to those first 2 plays. If we take away that interception and the was it the interception and the fumble? I think that's what it is. If you take away those 2 things, the game was so winnable for them. There's no reason why they could have not beaten the Dolphins yesterday. The Dolphins are a tough team. They're always a tough team for the Patriots, even when Brady was down here. So you can't discredit them. But they didn't play exceedingly well yesterday. So they didn't come out and do anything that was amazing, over the top. Oh my God, I can't believe the Dolphins are playing this well. It wasn't. They just were taking advantage of the opportunities that were given to them. And they noticed the uh what's the word I'm looking for? This disjointedness of the Patriots offense, especially. So they wanted to exploit that, and they did. So the defense has been the better side of the football, and that continued yesterday for them. So I think if the Patriots can figure it out in the next several weeks, I don't believe that they play the Dolphins again until just, I don't know, December or January again. They should be able to beat them if they can get things figured out too. So we shall see. There's still a lot of season left. I know that we all want to jump to conclusions because the week 1 game did not go well, but you have to remember it's week 1. There's 17 more. Yes, there's 17 more. There's plenty of time for them to figure their stuff out, master what they need, and for guys to just get better. So let's see. Yeah, Chris says Miami just cashed in on some Patriots errors. Miami overall were not that great. No, they weren't. And they could get better. They have a new coach. They have some really good pieces on both offense and defense. So they could definitely get better and be more of a troublesome team. But yesterday it was the perfect opportunity for the Patriots to start 1-0, and they just blew it. But like I said, there's lots of time. Oh, Joe says Curran and the Boston media overblew this loss. The game was a lot closer than the media gives them credit for, especially those who were saying the Pats weren't talented enough. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like, this is why sometimes, although I don't want to be like talking football, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel like I need to talk about a different team because I just get so emotionally invested in the Patriots and especially when they win or when they lose, like I just feel it so deeply and I get stressed out and it gives me, it's like sometimes I just want to not do this anymore and I just feel like I need to move on to another team. It's moments like that where I see the reaction from the Boston media that makes me be like, no, I have to be in this space because I as a fan that looks for news and updates and all of that, it's very exhausting to never see anything said in like a neutral way. And it's always just negative. Even when the Patriots were like, undefeated in 2007, it's like the media still was just unhappy and picking apart and they didn't deserve to win this game or this person didn't play well and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, they are never happy. Everything is about getting clicks and interactions. And I understand, that's the whole point of Twitter and, even to get people to watch your videos and whatnot. But it just becomes so exhausting that I just want to be a different part of that. And I don't consider myself necessarily a part of the media, but I try to be as optimistic as I can be while also trying to just be realistic with what I'm saying. I'm not going to talk crap about the team for the sake of crap talking the team. I'm not going to say ridiculous things and come to these crazy conclusions about how the team was just to get you to click on my article or on my video. I think it's just exhausting. I think that you guys feel that, and it's what keeps me going. You guys interacting with me, you guys reading my articles, you guys watching my streams. And, Chris says, Sara, you are more realistic in your assessment than people like Tom Curran in the Boston media. That kind of stuff is what helps. Thank you, Chris. It's what helps keep me motivated to be doing this. And so I really appreciate it. And I hope that I can give you good insight into what was happening in the game and on these, regarding the players and whatnot, but not make you feel the same way that, a headline like what Tom said makes you feel or how it makes me feel. I hope that I can give you guys the opposite effect. So that's all I have to say for today. Do not forget, Buddy will be live at the Airport Grill at 6:40 p.m. Eastern, I believe. I hope I'm right on that. He will be talking all about the Monday night football game, which is the Broncos Seahawks. Sounds like a really great game. On paper, I wish that it was a better. I don't think it's going to be as good as it would have been if we had a more reliable quarterback in Seattle, but still it's football nonetheless. Very exciting. Hey Yo Foxboro will be back on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern to talk all things Pats at Steelers. Not sure who my guest is going to be or if it's just going to be little me again, but regardless, I appreciate you guys who tune in every single time and interact with me, and I hope to see you guys on Friday. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Freddie says Monday Night Raw and Monday Night Football. That is right. I'm still considering if I'm going to try to watch both of them at the same time because I'm in Phoenix. So football's on at 5:15 for me, and then Raw starts at 5 because it's live for you guys, so I can watch it at the same time. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. But yes, Freddie, I don't know if you follow me on Twitter, but make sure you follow me so that we can tweet about wrestling together. And I hope to see you guys on Friday. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at SmarshXO, E2G Sports at E2G Sports on Twitter, YouTube, all of that good stuff. Give me a big old thumbs up, subscription to my channel, to E2G. Appreciate all. And I will see you guys later. Don't forget, we're on to Pittsburgh.